Oceania will make it past the first round. You can take apart the region, you can take apart the players, but you'll never take the heart out of them.
MSI, okay, I'm joking. Congratulations on making it to the Rumble stage. Hey, how have you been doing?
Good. It was pretty hectic. It's been a good day. I mean, we had some scrims. We didn't expect to have scrims, but the partner that booked with UOL had to have the slot filled, so we subbed in, saved the day. But yeah, it's been pretty good, pretty relaxed now. I had like a chill night last night. It took me ages to get to sleep. I was like so like amped, but yeah, it's been a good time.
I saw on your Twitter that you actually managed to get a selfie with Canyon.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty stoked to we took some photos with them as well. It's pretty crazy. Like, it's kind of weird to think that they're just in like a room the same as me, just like playing solo queue. Like, they're just like, it feels weird to be like on the same level as them. You know, like we're being treated the same. That's so insane to me. It's hard to like fathom because they're just like, I don't know, they're just like superheroes in my head, and I'm just like, I mean, to an extent, like world class players feel like these like deities. Like it feels like they're just like almost like a different species. They're just so like insanely good at like everything. It's like it's hard to believe that they're like sometimes it's hard to like just they're just people as well, you know?
Yeah. Did you have a chat with Canyon and how did it go? Because like I look at the Nidalee skin and I realize, oh my god, this guy is a world champion. Then I talk to him and I'm like, he is a gamer that really wants to improve and work hard, and he's very humble. So
Yeah, I said, Camden, you jungle get me every game, and he just kind of laughed and said it was like unlucky.
I think they actually picked up a lot of words from me playing UW solo queue, I'm sure.
Yes, they would have definitely picked maybe some choice words, maybe not the best words for broadcast, but
Solo Bolo. I heard that Khan was having some really interesting.
when the Chinese casters said solo bolo
Yeah.
on like the stream, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like it just cracked me up. It was so good.
It's just that like a lot of solo queue games that the LCK players and the LPL players are doing get screen capped and shared in the Korean communities, and they just like really like the Solo Bolo meme.
Yeah. Oh no, dude. When Chaz said, "I do not mean to alarm you, Cryan, but I'm going to solo bolo," and then he actually like solo killed, like oh shit. That's such a payoff right there. That's huge.
Oh my god. And I actually did want to talk about yesterday, even though like, everyone would have wanted to interview you and talk about it 1,000 times. You did have a day to kind of recover and kind of review yesterday and just think, wow, we did something amazing. But if you had to look back now, yeah, what was yesterday like? Just doing that miracle run and actually making it to Rumble over UL.
It was pretty challenging in a lot of ways, but it felt like we just had to learn how to fix the draft for the most part. We have to work within our own limitations, but then also so do they. So as soon as we figured out how to make like the jungle playable, basically, because when we could play the game and we had engage and jungle was in like a good spot to play the game, it was really easy to like kind of just roll over the games. You saw when we had like a composition that was favorable and my matchup was good and we had engage tools, we would just like take fights and win them. So getting into that position took a while, and figuring out how to draft around the jungle role was like kind of hard. But once we got like further in and realized that also Ananasik had an extremely abusable champion pool, it just like I don't know. Like going into the last game, like I felt so confident going into that it was crazy. Like it felt as soon as I saw him locking Kha'Zix, I was halfway to like celebrating in my head. Like I knew it was done.
I also remember Chaz saying in another interview that it took Penta longer to adjust to the current meta because in OC you guys don't have like external regions to scrim against, so there is a bit of an isolation meta. Like what kind of percentage would you say you have come to in terms of 100% understanding the meta?
I'd say we still have a long way to go. We have a lot of champion pool issues of our own, so it's like hard to fully like, you play against a team like RNG and they just do things that you can't. Like they like you have like like their top laner literally goes mid and like one shots my entire team. Like they're just like incredible world class flexible players that can all basically play everything. So it's so hard to like kind of emulate that. We can't draft like a world class team because we don't have world class champion pools. We have to play to our own strengths, right? Like I wouldn't say, we're going to be the perfect meta team. We're going to have our own flavor to it and our own way of playing the game because that's what's going to be best for us. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's an isolation meta to OS. It's more that OS teams are really terrible at punishing like anything really. Like there's minimal proactivity from teams. So it's really easy to just pick scaling and team fight like third, fourth Drake and just win the game. And that was like kind of our forte. We just lock Victor, we'd play Velius Thresh, we'd play Jinx, and we're just like later on, every fight we took, we'd win because we had better champions and we hadn't like lost the game. So that was kind of like what it was like in O's, and we've had to adapt really fast and find ways that we can get winning lanes against teams that are like equally or more flexible than us.
Penta actually pulls out a lot of off-meta champion. It was kind of funny reading that Chaz was like, yeah, like Caster said that, like, you guys must have prepared for Z pick, but I actually haven't played it on the stage for 6 months. And what was like some of our other picks? Like, you played Jungle Fiddlestick, right?
Yeah, I played Fiddle.
Yeah, you played Fiddle. Like, I saw mid lane Quiana. Like, what kind of innovation takes place in order for you guys to actually pull those, like, really wild champions out?
Um, we sort of just think these things are strong, right? Like we think that the AD mids are super underrated, and it's really weird that people don't play them more. Like Kiana for sure is like one of the scariest champions in the game if she doesn't lose the game in 3 levels. Like she really gets abused in the first 3 levels, and like if she gets pushed in, chunked out, and then frozen on, and then you can't break the freeze, like the game's really hard to play because she's just not useful. But if she can get to level 6, she has kill threat on basically every mid laner. She can like her ult is one of the best abilities in the game. So it's like if you can get to the payoff point of this champion, you can just like team fight really well, and then it suits like the jungle meta really well because jungle meta is super AP heavy, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's forcing like Volibear and Olaf, and these champions are just not great at the moment. Like they're fine, they're acceptable, but like you want to be playing Morgana, Rumble, Nidalee, like you want to be playing Udyr. And I think Fiddlesticks and Karthus are also just excellent right now. They're both rocking like 54% win rates in high elo. Like they're like really, really insanely strong champions. So I think that's kind of like what we excel at. My mid lane is really good at assassin picks. He has a few mages that he's like really excellent as well, but for the most part, his assassins are like a step above, and so just like drafting into that and playing into that is like good for us. And I wouldn't say that we have like an insane meta read, but we're just doing what we think is best and what we can do the best.
And I actually posted on Twitter that I'll actually be having an interview with Pabu, and a lot of people commented on your like jungle fucking ocean and how you can like pretty much pull out any champion. Like, is it you? Like, what kind of process leads into having this such a wide champion pool, and you having been a top laner previously, does it help with having this flexibility in terms of champion picks?
It's kind of been the player I've always been. I've always found it really easy to pick up champions for like a certain level of baseline comfort that I feel like I can play them on stage. So I've always just been really quick to learn the intricacies of champions, and I also feel like that having such flexibility is just extremely powerful. Like we hadn't come in playing like a Karthus game, and we hadn't come in like drafting Nidalee for the entire split, but we thought it was good, so we just picked it, and I'm confident in myself to play it. And like a lot of players don't have this confidence, if they haven't scrimmed a champion, they haven't played it much in solo queue, they're a bit scared to play it, but I have faith in myself, and like the same with Chaz, like he has faith in himself as well to like just slam Zed when it looks good, and like we think it's good here, we think it's strong, we haven't had the opportunity to scrim it, but like who cares? We'll just send it. And like having tools is all good and all, but you actually have to use them, right? Like you got to do it in the end. Like you got to flash, you got to make that flash hook. You got to like you got to clutch that team fight. So like even if you pick the strictly optimal champion, if you don't know what you're doing with it, it doesn't really matter. So drafting to yourself a bit more and drafting to your own knowledge can be advantageous. Of course, like in a perfect world, you would have perfect knowledge of every champion, and you would always slam the, theoretical best draft maneuver at any point in time, and then play it out perfectly inside of the game. But if you're not familiar with everything about it, it's often just not the best.
And that kind of confidence and like kind of having that faith in yourself is also something we see from Penta in general. When I watch you guys' games, like, it doesn't matter how behind you guys are, it doesn't matter like whether you guys losing or not, and you guys are always smiling and like going for those really aggressive picks. And win or lose, like on stage, you're smiling, and I think that's like super admirable, and also is a testimony to what kind of team atmosphere Penta has right now. You're smiling. Do you have anything to say to that? Quite the mask, I
nah.
can say.
No, there's not too much to add to it. Like,
Yeah.
it's all well and good to say that like having this kind of atmosphere is like something teams should strive towards. But I think why it's a bit easier for us is because we've like messed up real bad and then still come back from it like a lot of times. Like we've dropped a lot of terrible games. We've played a lot of terrible games, and then we've played really well the next game like a lot of times. It's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times like throughout the split, throughout the year, throughout like playoffs coming in, throughout MSI, we've played some real shocker games, and then we've played some real banger games. So knowing that like even after we int it, we can still do well is like it's kind of been we've done it over time. So it's a bit easier to have faith in yourself when you've made the recovery a few times.
A lot of people fell in love with Pentanet's story, like, their resilience, like, their attitude in interviews and walking in and out of the stage. But when we follow Penta's, like, story in general, especially the main Twitter account, we also see this, like, promoting the fact that you guys are super underdogs. Our region was gone, and, like, a lot of our player base was gone, which is true since that whole OCE OPL change. Is that kind of narrative initiative also shared by the players, out of curiosity?
I don't think it's like in our minds that much, but definitely after we win, it's like pretty funny to think about. It's more amusing than anything, but I don't think that it's like it's not like a huge focal point for us. We're more concerned about like I guess ourselves in that sense. Like we know what we're doing is very good for us, but also like I'm doing it for the boys, like it's not I'm not thinking too much about the repercussions of everything, the implications of everything. I'm just trying to do the best by the people I care about.
It's still so weird to think about the different players in different regions and what kind of atmosphere they're in, because when I think about Korea, it's such a good atmosphere for like rising players, so to speak. You have PC rounds everywhere. The solo queue environment is amazing. Like if you're in a team, you can scrim against like an LPL, LJL, like PCS, any teams out there. So yeah, I wonder what the experience is like for the current OC player, if I may ask. Because I'm from
It's
Korea.
it's pretty rough. Like O solo queue is extremely demotivating. Like the queues are long, the players are bad, and also there's just plenty of delusion between some like some real characters. So like I don't know, like the players that were stuck in like Diamond 4 2 years ago are like 600 LP now. So it's like everyone just thinks they're insane when they're just like not very good, and so it's like it's really demotivating to grind that, especially when like even if you can get past all of like the nonsense, right? You still have to wait 30 minutes between your games, which is like a huge barrier to entry already, and like the player base just isn't there, and so it's really I don't know. It's not. I wouldn't say it's like awful, but if I thought I was really good and I wanted to become a pro and I lived in Australia, I would just go and like pull every string that I can, just lump as much money as I can together, and just go bootcamp in like EU or something. Like go find like a what do you call it, like an ERL team, like a bottom place ERL team. Try to get a gaming house, like so you can play EU as solo queue. That would be for sure 10 times better than playing through OS solo queue.
You said that you're doing it for the boys.
Yeah.
Would you mind elaborating on that, if I may ask?
Well, there's not that much to it apart from like it's kind of always my attitude, I guess. It's more everyone here is trying their best to make it work and putting in the work, and so I like we owe it to each other to try our best to like move forward as much as we can. And then also like I mean, I haven't had too many conversations with the boys about it, but I'm under the impression everyone wants to eventually play overseas, right? So making sure that we all look our best to continue our trajectory as a player is also like really important for all of us. So just like putting on the best showing so that we all end up as far as we can is like the goal. And whatever happens, like hopefully we make it back to Worlds and we can just do it again and continue to improve and play against better competition, and then hopefully continue to further our careers.
There was one question that came up in that Twitter thread that I put up earlier that I was considering asking, and I'm happy to skip it if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Frostgurren actually asked, because you talked about the fact that, hey, like, us being in this competition and us possibly having an even better performance at Wells also, like, increases our chances of going to good teams overseas eventually. You can't speak for other players here, but have you ever considered going to another region? And if so, why? Or if not so, why?
I would